Hey guys, what's up? So I hope you have gone through the HDI part 1, that is 1.1, related to index videos. See, it is very crucial that you follow the sequence because there is some logic behind it. Since you know what is HDI now, so it will be very easier for you to now understand what are gender indexes. There is some shortcoming with respect to HDI, that is, it does not include the gender dimension. It does not have different HDI for males and females, which is one of the propositions, by the way, that have HDI male and have HDI female, and if there is large difference, then attribute it to the gender, okay, inequalities. So we will be discussing with gender empowerment measures, gender related development index, and why these two have become a failure, and why are they replaced by gender inequality index, and what are the qualities of good indicators in human development report. This is 1.2 in indexes and reports, presented by me, Roman Seni. This is the YouTube channel An Academy, and this is the Facebook page of YouTube channel An Academy. If you have any doubt, you can ask here. See, what are the qualities of a good human development report indicator? If you don't know, human development report came in 1990 and it includes various indicators like HDI. Earlier it used to include HPI, now replaced by MPI, that is multi-dimensional poverty index, then GII, gender inequality index, and lots more. So I'll be teaching you about HDR indicators only. I have already covered HDI and IHDI. And what are the qualities of a good indicator? See, it should be simple to calculate. It should not be too complicated. Otherwise, people will find it very difficult to calculate. It should be a single number because politicians, media, public have too less of attention span. Okay. So the attention span is very low. So policymakers need to have a single number so that they can give it to public and they can give it to everyone, and then the decision can be made, because it's very sensitive number. If there are lots and lots of number and statistics, it becomes very difficult. A single death is a tragedy. Always remember, a single death is a tragedy, but a million death is a statistic. Always remember that. So if there are millions and millions of number, no one gives a crap, but if it's just a single number, it becomes very easy to focus. It should be calculated on a yearly basis. Otherwise, what happens, it should not be like census, the data is available only after 10 years. That is wrong. Then it should be comparable between the countries. Okay, there should be international comparison. Okay, and finally it should be very easy to interpret. For example, if it is 0.7 HDI and if it is 0.6 HDI, it means 0.7 is better developed than 0.6. As simple as that. Okay, it is a single number. It is very simple to calculate. It can be calculated yearly. It can be compared between two countries, and it is very easy to interpret. These are the qualities of good indicator when it comes to human development and in general also. And you can write an awesome mains answer or essay answer going through these 5 points. Now, what are the gender indicators in general? See, what happens was, human development report, it came because of the effort of Huck and Sen. These are the two economists from South Asia. Huck was from Pakistan, Sen was from India. Human development report in 1995, what it introduced was GDI, that is gender related development index, and gender empowerment measures. Obviously, they measure the extent of gender inequality and the women empowerment in a particular nation. Okay, why? Because HDI lacked gender dimension. That is why these need to be included, because HDI do not give a crap whether it is because of male or female the development. Okay, HDI is not able to differentiate whether the development is coming from the males or the females. Just for your information, the 2014 HDR report has the title of Sustaining Human Progress, Reducing Vulnerabilities and Building Resilience. Okay, that is a 2014 HDR report title. It is can be asked, or you should remember, it is very helpful if you quote it in exams. And 2015 is Rethinking Work for Human Development. Is that absolutely understood? Rethinking Work for Human Development. Please remember this, it may be asked sometimes. Now, gender empowerment measure. So do you know how it becomes so important? Because 2015 report will be around employment, the quality of employment, job. Then you should know what is blue collar job, that is white collar job. All these terms you should know. What is labor participation rate? See, what is cyclical unemployment, structural unemployment, disguised unemployment. Now all these terms become very important because the human development report is focusing on that. Now, gender empowerment measure is basically, it was introduced by United Nations Development Program. It is the one who propounded it, HDR is the report name. It was significant till 2010, not very significant after that. It tends to measure gender inequality. Please remember, it measures gender inequality by focusing on empowerment. So it basically discounts or it negates gender inequality across the globe, that is internationally comparison. It takes into account income, that is women's share in income as compared to men, then employment in decision making jobs. Please remember this, like administration or management or CEOs. These are the jobs which are the very powerful jobs, and it leads to economic power. And finally, access to parliament membership. But can you see, it does not take into account panchayats, it does not take into account wages of daily laborers, which is the case with the developing nation. Okay, it does not take into account housewives or homemakers as they are called now. So can you see, it does not take care of middle class or lower class. It is a very elite bias. It is biased towards elites. It is biased towards developed country. That is the major fallback. It is supposed to measure if women can take part in political and economic life, and hence they can take part in decision making. Although it calculates that, but it focuses on very high class or the very high strata of society. It does not include middle class and lower class, and it completely excludes developing countries to a large extent. Now, what is GDI? GDI is Gender Development Index or Gender Related Development Index, whatever you want to call it. It measures gender gap. Okay, it measures gender gap. Again, it is slightly same, but it has slightly different aspect also. See, there was no health concept there. Okay, health concept has been introduced here. So it includes female and male life expectancy at birth. Do you know why this is difference of 5 years between males and females? Because females in general lives 5 years more than males. This is a biological fact. Okay, this has to do with biological fact. It has nothing to do with any nutrition or etc anything else, but biologically females are supposed to last 5 years more than males. Now education is measured by female and male expected years of schooling. Again, I have told you in the last video what is expected year of schooling and mean year of schooling also. So both of these I have told you. What a 5-year-old can expect to go number of years. A 5-year-old kid, if he is in school, how many years is can he expect to be educated or can be expect to schooled? Okay, that is expected year of schooling. And how much a 25 or more year old adult has undergone schooling in general is mean year of schooling. Finally, the third point is command over economic resources. Again, it is like earned income. Can you again see, it is not taking account into informal sector. Okay, again it is very like upper class biased, developed country biased, as you can see from this point. Especially GEM is highly biased towards the developed nations. So why do you need GII? Why do you need gender inequality index? Because GEM and GDI are, they're highly specialized. They need experts, very highly oriented towards complexity. They're very difficult to interpret. They are more suitable for developed countries than developing countries. And again, they are more focused on enabling measures like income is present or not, parliamentary representation is present or not, rather than ground realities. It should be more like choices. Can female have their sexual freedom? Can they decide if they want to be a child or not? These are the realities which you should focus on, rather than if they are participating in parliament or how many income they have or what are the jobs. So it is basically output versus outcome debate. So let's say there is a government budget of, let's say, 10,000 crore rupees for health. Okay, I'll explain this concept. So for this, if you make, let's say, 100 hospitals, so that is your output. Okay, this is called as outlay, this is called as output, but actually decreasing, let's say, MMR from 212 to 167, which happened in case of India, per 1 lakh childbirth is outcome. So actual decrease on ground is outcome. So we should not focus on outlay, you should not focus on output but on outcome. These are focusing on output rather than outcome. Finally, gender empowerment measures, they focus more on higher strata of society, as I have already told. That is why in 2010 in HDR report there were 3 major changes. This can be asked in the exam, you should remember. One was inequality adjusted human development index, other was HPI got completely abolished and it was replaced by multi-dimensional poverty index, and the third change was GII, and GDI and GEM took a back seat. Okay, please remember these 3 changes. MPI GII and IHDI. These are the three major changes in 2010 HDR. So GII was introduced 20 years on 20th anniversary of first HDR report. Why after 20 years? Again, there were some methodological problems because it was difficult to calculate, and there was some conceptual problem also in GDI and GEM. And to tackle these problems and the limitations, GII was introduced, that is Gender Inequality Index. Okay, it is a composite measure. It means that it is an overhaul measure. It is a comprehensive measure, and it is composed of basic units, and it takes into account the loss of development and opportunities owing to gender inequality. Because of gender inequality, a nation is not able to realize its true potential. So let's say nation has realized X amount of potential, but it could have realized Y amount of potential if there was no gender inequality. So Y minus X is equals to the gender inequality lag in development. This is given by GII. So let's say GII is 0. It means X is equals to Y. Okay, if GII is 0, it means there is 0 inequality. It means there is perfect equality. Please remember this. If it is 1, if HDI is 1, that is a perfectly developed nation. But if GII is 1, then it is perfectly unequal society. I hope it is clear now. Similarly, in Gini coefficient, if it is 0, it is the best case scenario. And if its GII is 0, it is the best case scenario. Okay. Now, value of GII varies between 0, that is 0 inequality, absolutely 0 inequality, it is the best case scenario, or it can be 1, that is 100% inequality. It means the worst case scenario. It means it is completely unequal. Both are impossible to achieve statistically. Now, what is RAM? What is RAM? RAM is basically reproduction, empowerment, and labor force in market. Okay, so these are the three parameters of GII. I will explain now. So I'll give you some solution which you can copy in the exam directly rather than showing you a slide. Just remember, it is 3D, 5I, 3D, 3-dimensional. Which are the 3 dimension? I've already spoken. What are the 5 I's? I'll tell you what are 5 I's. This is how you should write in the exam. You'll get much more marks. Just write MMR, that is maternal mortality, and adolescent fertility rate. These two combined together and they give the reproductive dimension or the reproductive health dimension, okay, of females. Obviously it has everything to do with females. Then the second indicator is the attainment of parliamentary seats, okay, the parliamentary seats, okay, and secondary education, minimum how many females have achieved secondary education. This is the educational dimension. I hope it is clear now. And the third is, so this becomes labor force participation, okay, and this is in what? It is in the labor market. So now you remember REM. It is also a very famous band. Have you heard their song Losing My Religion? It is an absolutely amazing song. If you haven't heard, please listen to it. This three combined together form GII. So REM and 5 indicator, that is MMR, maternal mortality rate, AFR, adolescent fertility rate, attainment of parliamentary seats, at least secondary education, and labor force participation rate, that is called as LFPR. So I hope it is absolutely clear now. There is absolutely no doubt. Now, gender inequality index is measuring these three aspects. Reproductive health, I have told you, MMR and AFR. Empowerment is by proportion of parliamentary seats by females and proportion of adult females aged 25 or more. Minimum criteria is secondary education. In Indian case, it is also called as 10th class. Okay, matriculation, whatever you want to call it. Higher education is 12th class, and the university education is college. Economic status is expressed as labor force participation rate, as I have already told you. It ideal state, it should include your employed, paid plus unpaid, and it should also include willing to be employed. But in practice, it do not include unpaid and willing to be employed. These are usually not included, and it is calculated between 50 to 60 years of age, the LFPR. Now, reproductive health, why it is unique? Because GII is the first indicator to take this into account. It is extremely crucial, no matter whether you are in USA or whether you are in Afghanistan. This is an extremely important indicator because it is directly related to the freedom of choice you have. And the most basic freedom is whether you want to give birth to babies or not, whether you want to participate in intercourse or not. It is a very important indicator. and it denotes the level of freedom which female have. Now, MMR is maternal mortality ratio or maternal mortality rate. Both are correct, and there is slight difference between both of them. It is calculated by UNICEF's State of the World's Children. Okay, that is the body which calculates MMR worldwide. Don't say कि India का भी ये calculate करेंगे. No. In India's case, India will provide the data to them. They will verify, and then finally they will give it to GII calculators. Now, AFR is adolescent fertility rate. It means that total number of females who are there in their adolescence who are getting pregnant. Adolescence period more or less overlaps with teenage, but slightly extend more. The various definition differs. It can be from 15 to 24, or it can be from 14 to 22. See, the definition will vary, but more or less overlapping with the teenage years plus early adulthood. That is called as adolescence. And if a female becomes pregnant in this period, there is huge implications in terms of health. Then your mental status get disturbed because you are not mentally prepared, you are not even physically prepared, so the chance of dying during the childbirth is very high. And then even if you are mentally and physically prepared, you are not financially prepared to raise a child. So adolescent fertility rate ideally should be low. And finally, reproductive health is the largest loss of due to gender inequality is because of reproductive health issues. Is that understood? The largest loss in gender inequality is because of issues in reproductive health. Now, what is empowerment? Okay, what do you mean by empowerment? Obviously, I have told you share of parliamentary seats is calculated by International Parliamentary Union. Let's see how are they. They are 3 by 20. So if there are 20 parliamentary seats, 17 are occupied by males while 3 are occupied by females. That is just 15%. It is extremely low. Okay, and it is only on a national level, not state or local level. This is again very crucial. Why? Because in India case there are millions, and I am using the term millions of elected female representative thanks to Panchayat's 50% reservation. They are not included in such criteria. That is really sad. Now, prevailing higher education of at least secondary education attainment by females as compared to males. This is done by UNESCO. Now, more they are educated, more they participate in decision making and in public life, and lower the AFR and IMR. This is a proven study. So if they are more educated, their fertility rate goes down and their children's mortality rate also goes down. Finally, you have labor force participation rate in the market. Ideally, it should include paid, unpaid work and those who are actively seeking work, but it does not include, and it is calculated by International Labour Organization. Now, GII top rankers, which are not in order, includes these are the countries like Slovenia is rank 1, Switzerland rank 2, etc. These are the top 10 performers. There the inequality is less than 0.1. So you will see their values are 0.02 or 0.06 or 0.08, something like that. Okay, it's a very good performance, almost non-existential inequality. While GII bottom ranks include either the African nations or the Arabic nations or Afghanistan. So as you can see, Chad, Niger, Sierra Leone, Mauritania, Liberia, Congo, Central African Republic, Mali, all these are African nations fighting civil wars, having destabilized population. See, and Afghanistan obviously because of its own unique issues of Taliban. Mozambique is also an African nation. Yemen is typical because of the huge problems with Arab Spring and all those internal conflicts and wars. So these are the GII bottom rankers. There the inequality is as high as 65 to 75%. So the highest value will be 0.75 or something like that. Now, when it comes to SAARC nations, obviously Afghanistan is the poorest performer, but India is the second poorest performer combined together with Pakistan. This is a very sad news. Very sad news. It should not be taken lightly. Bangladesh is 115. Sri Lanka is the best performer, 75, like in HDI also. Nepal is surprisingly very well placed, and Bhutan also. And when it comes to BRICS, no nation has 3-digit rank except India. China is surprisingly at 37 number, Russia is 52, Brazil is 85, South Africa 94. So you can quote this data, and it's also sensitize you that how pathetic state of affairs are going on in South Asia, especially in India. So now we will deal with some advantages of GII. It gives us valuable insights. It shed an amazing amount of empowering light on gender gaps which are hindering the human development, and it also sheds light on position of women in more than 150 countries at one go, and it shows us the mirror that we are at 127th position. It highlights the areas where the policy intervention is needed. See, these are the disadvantages against female are going on for last 3000 to 4000 years since civilization has dawned, and this needs to be undone by doing some policy changes like providing reservation to them, as done in case of panchayats, where it has even increased in certain states from 33 to 50%. Certain steps needs to be taken so that they can get an equal playing field. It forces us into proactive thinking, and finally it gives a light on economic cost, because as the GII increases, your entire GDP could have been more if there was no GII, but since GII is more, so GDP is less. So this is a direct indicator which has been given by GII, so it has lost lots of advantages. Even developing countries which have low gender inequalities can score high. This is extremely critical point. For example, in gender empowerment measures, you need income criteria. Okay, so income is usually low and they are usually not promoted to very high jobs. So in that case, developing countries will never score high. But in case of GII, developing countries can score very highly. And even if a nation has very good score in one dimension, like example in education, if you have very high score, it does not necessarily mean that it will have an overall great GII. So please remember, it is association sensitive. So for example, what happened in, let's say there are three people in the class, one got 5 marks, other got 6 marks, other got 95 marks. So the average will be reflective more of this guy. Okay, it is not like that in GII. Similarly in HDI also, in previous HDI, if you have very high income, then your HDI goes up. But in GII, it is not like that. It is association sensitive. So you need to have very good score in all three dimensions to have a good GII. Now, obviously, if there are advantages, there has to be some criticism and shortcomings. So, obviously, I have told you again and again, it ignores women in unpaid and informal sectors where they are usually the dominant ones. So, they should also be included. It uses mixed indices like health and economics along with politics, etc. It may not be applicable to all the regions despite everything, and it is complex. Some say it is complex, but it is the worst possible indicator. It is the best possible indicator among all the choices today. So I hope it was good enough for you. Do spread the word, and it's my humble request, do hit the thumbs up so I'll make more videos and be a part of this education revolution. And these are the URLs, you can ask your query here. Thank you for watching the tutorial. Have an awesome day.